Welcome friends to another r/I don't work here lady video. Our first story of the day is by Hogzalaxi. I don't work here. My clothes are nowhere near correct. So about 10 years ago, my friend and I go into a Best Buy so he can look at a TV he pre-ordered. I'm wearing a black Slayer t-shirt and some jeans. As he's waiting in line at customer service, I decide to wander around a bit. I'm looking at the fridges. I was bored and just looking when a man in his mid-40s walks up and asks me if I can help him buy some stove. I look at him and politely tell him, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I don't work here." I go back to just looking at some freezers when I hear him cough really loudly.
"Hey boy, I said I need help. Do you want your commission or not?"
I look up at him and said, "I don't work here, man," and I wave my hand around my shirt. At this point, he's super angry and says to me,
"How about I go get a manager?"
And I lose my crap because I've had it with this guy. I said, "Yeah, go grab him. Maybe he can help you because your head is so far up your butt, my voice must be muffled. I don't work here. I'm not even remotely dressed as an employee, bro." So he leaves and I wander over to the gaming section when a burly man in a blue Best Buy shirt and that guy come walking over. The employee says, "Is everything okay over here?" The guy says,
"See, that's the guy. Not such a tough guy now since I got your boss, huh?"
The employee says, "Sir, I'm not his boss. He doesn't work here. He has a Slayer t-shirt on. That should have been a dead giveaway." The guy says,
"But he looks like an employee."
The employee says, "Nope, not even close."
"Well, what are you going to do for me?"
The employee says, "How about this? I don't remove you from the store for harassing another customer, and you can finish shopping without further trouble. Is that doing something for you?" The guy glared at me for like forever until the Best Buy employee just gave up and asked him to leave. Have you ever experienced being around somebody that was so stubborn that they were right, that even when presented with clear, concise evidence that they're completely wrong, they just get upset and refuse to admit that they're wrong? Let me know if you've experienced anybody like that in the comments down below. Our next story is by 1,000 Cuts. I don't work there, cabby. From the 1970s to the 1990s, my mother worked for a non-government organization in our country. This organization's role is to educate and advise members of the general public about their legal rights and the legal options available to them. Not by being public defenders or anything akin to that, but by making the law accessible and understandable to the average person, by taking complicated laws and legal decisions and explaining them in everyday language. Within the organization, my mother had worked her way up from being a secretary to being a project manager, reporting directly to the C-level executives and occasionally even meeting royalty and the heads of state. On this occasion, the project my mother had been selected to lead was, in simple terms, to build a computer network for the organization to, among other things, store all of the documents used to educate and advise members of the general public, for retrieval either by the tens of thousands of staff in the organization and or by the tens of millions of members of the general public who use the organization. That way, the organization wouldn't have to print and distribute to its hundreds of offices throughout the country revised documents every time the law changed. The organization didn't have the technical ability to complete the project itself, so it decided to invite businesses to bid for parts of the project. One of the businesses bidding for part of the project decided to go all out and hired a high-end hotel to wine and dine the various principals, and to present to the various principals demonstrations of how it could complete not just part, but all of the project. Needing every moment to work on the project, my mother decided to work during the journey to the hotel by borrowing an early cell phone, a little bit more modern than Gordon Gekko's, but only a little, and a laptop from the organization, and by taking a plane to as near to the hotel as possible, and then having a chauffeured car take her from the airport to the hotel. If you have an expense account, and it's genuinely benefiting the organization, why not use it? So my mother's working in the back of the car when the chauffeur announces that they've arrived. My mother looks up from her work and is confused. All she's able to see is the busy courtyard and loading dock of a back of a building. My mother asks the chauffeur if he's certain that they're at the correct address, as it looks nothing like she was expecting a high-end hotel to look like. The chauffeur states that it's the correct address and that the kitchen entrance is pointing just over there. My mother states pointedly that she's expected at the main entrance, that she's one of the VIPs, and that does the chauffeur really think that a person in a chauffeured car, dressed in a business suit, and using a cell phone and laptop that likely cost as much as his car, is one of the kitchen staff just because that person is a woman? The very embarrassed chauffeur drove my mother to the hotel's main entrance, and suffice to say, did not receive a tip. I know back then it was way less common and much more of a stereotype for women to not be in those kinds of positions. But still, the leaps and bounds and mental gymnastics that had to be done to look past a woman in business attire using a cell phone in the 90s and a laptop kinda astounds me. Why would anybody wearing that attire and having that equipment work in the kitchen? This next story is by King's Ransom 79. Yes, this is my child. This story's pretty tame, but definitely kinda racist. I was at a local playground with my kids. My youngest was about 18 months at the time. She was enjoying the swings while the others ran around. My daughter was very much into hugs and kisses at this age. She especially got a kick out of asking to give you a kiss, then blowing on your cheek to make a wet sound. We had done that a couple of times, and then I went back to pushing her in the swing. It's also important to note that I'm black and my husband has a very light complexion, and so do my children. An annoying lady says, "She's so cute," and I say thanks. She says, "She really seems to love you." I say, "I hope so," looking confused. "Does her mother mind you being so affectionate with her?" I say, "I'm her mother." "Oh, I didn't. You don't look like her." "Well, she's all mine." "Is her dad white?" I say, "Nope." "But she has blue eyes." "Yeah, most black people have ancestors that were assaulted by white men, so we come in all colors." That was the end of her questions. I feel like especially in this day and age, a parent and their child's skin color not being exactly identical isn't all that uncommon. It just all depends on genetics, and genetics are extremely mixed up, especially if your partner doesn't have the same skin tone. I guess it's just hard to understand why it was so surprising for this annoying lady. Our next story is by Pizza Nerd 1. You're wearing an apron. I work as an assistant manager at a pizzeria, and my job is a little bit of everything. Yesterday, a paper towel dispenser wasn't working, and after a bit of checking, found the batteries that powered it were dead. We didn't have any spares in the restaurant, so I took my motorcycle to my local grocery store down the road. I go in and swerve past all the people doing their dinner time shopping. After years of stopping at the store, many of the employees know me as the dude who works at the pizza place down the road. And today, I'm in full uniform wearing jeans and a black shirt that has bits of flour on the shoulders. The logo of the pizza company is plastered on my chest, as well as the middle of my red apron. I go to the location of the batteries, which is a counter between check stands 3 and 4, and begin looking for D batteries. Before I can reach out and grab my choice, I hear a ahem from behind me. I look around and see a wild Karen. "Excuse me, do you have any toilet paper?" I say, "I'm sorry, I don't work here, but I think they're on aisle 12. The Karen huffing, "Well, are you going to take me there?" I say, "I'm sorry, but I don't work here," as I grab my batteries. "Don't lie to me, you're wearing an apron." Just then, a cashier who I know opened check stand 4. I swerve past Karen and place my batteries on the conveyor belt. The cashier says, "Hey OP, how's it going?" The Karen says, "Excuse me, I want to complain about this rude employee of yours," points a finger at me. "He won't show me where the toilet paper is." Me turning to Karen, "Ma'am, I don't work here." "Then why are you wearing an apron?" I point to the pizzeria logo on my apron. "I work at pizzeria down the road. I don't work here, I just came here for batteries." The cashier says, "The batteries come to $11.50. I pay for the batteries and turn to Karen one last time. "The toilet paper's on aisle 12. Have a nice day," and walk out. At the end of the night, I go back to the grocery store with a box of pepperoni pizza. I see cashier closing a register, and we have a laugh as she tells me this is not the first time that particular Karen has mistaken a customer for an employee. Not the first time this Karen has mistaken a customer for an employee? Does this person just walk into any old location, look for anybody that looks like they might be an employee and go, "You, tell me where to find exactly this thing. If you tell me no, I'm already prepared to go straight to your manager." Sometimes you wish brain function was a little higher. This next story's by This Is My Phone Though. Met my old manager at the grocery store. A lot of the changes that came along with COVID means that I don't bump into people very often. So this is really one of the only times I've recognized someone from an old job in a long time. I used to enjoy seeing old coworkers from time to time, so that's kind of a sore point in its own right. The I Don't Work Here lady was probably 2 months ago, but time is hard. A few years ago, I worked at a factory that had 2 production rooms, one of which was for the cool kids and was a reasonably paced workplace. And the room I worked in was ran like a sweatshop. Same kind of work, just entirely different expectations. There was a racial aspect to this, though I can't speak to exactly what was going on. The pace was so bad I couldn't tie my shoes without causing an emergency. It was awful. It permanently damaged my feet and is just another bitter work experience I have. My ex-manager is a very small woman. If she's not under 5 foot, she's close. I, on the other hand, am a tad over 6 foot. I noticed her while picking up groceries and she noticed me. I went to wave and she asked me, "OP, can you reach this for me?" while pointing to some sauce on a higher shelf. I didn't even think about it. Some people's parents don't water them enough, so it's my duty to be the top shelf boy. All good, you know? But then it was, "You need to go get me a case of Deer Park water." The bottled water was the whole Bud store away. A case of water's like 25 pounds or some crap. And this witch started pushing her cart in the opposite direction of the water after giving me a task. I probably would have helped her lift the darn thing if she had asked nicely and brought her cart to the darn water. The history I have with this woman, the fact that she ran that room like we were machines, makes this event even more gross. At the time it didn't register, but the freaking audacity of this woman who worked me so hard I couldn't walk for 3 weeks demanding I do grunt work for her? She can't get her own water, but she can run everyone around her to the brink of exhaustion? To be fair, I don't know if she's to blame or if there was a deeper problem that caused the unreasonable pace, but this event eroded my benefit of the doubt for her. There's no real direct conflict or resolution. No closure. I didn't lash out or correct her rudeness. No one saw it to validate me. She left me behind to presumably get something else, and I just kinda got the rest of my stuff and left without seeing her again. It was so bizarre. Still kinda feel weird about being asked to grab things off the top shelf after that. I definitely don't think there's anything wrong about asking another person to get something off the top shelf, especially if they're short in stature. But asking somebody to go to a completely different part of the store to grab something and come find them and give it to them? Why? No, doesn't work that way, especially with the history that OP's manager brings to this. And our final story of the day is by Bonitz. Whatever you do, never wear any kind of vest into the Mart of Walls. I'm a merchandiser. Basically, I get paid to water plants and make things look pretty. I wore a lilac, light purple, fleece vest with pockets and a hood. My job does not require me to help customers. My job is literally water flowers and make it look nice. First, I received a box that literally looked like someone had juggled it. All but 2 succulents were knocked out of their little pots, dirt everywhere, etc. Policy is take a picture, write an email report. So, because time was tight, I snapped a shot and started typing. And almost Karen stomps up. "Hey you on your phone." I look up. She says, "Where can I find so-and-so?" I said, "I don't know, I don't work here." She snorts and stomps off to a real employee and starts telling him about how I wouldn't help her. I don't know what he said. I went back to my report. Second, I'm self-scanning and this guy comes up and asks about shopping baskets. I told him, I don't know, I don't work here. He says, well, you're wearing a vest. I said, well, yeah, it's my jacket. And he huffs off. Moral of the story, never wear any kind of vest into the Mart of Walls. I think the unfortunate lesson we're learning here today is the vest is a criminally underused piece of garment. We need to do our part to take the vest game back. Because apparently wearing a vest is becoming the status symbol of, I work at a grocery store. To be fair though, I would agree that it is kind of a status symbol if it has a certain look. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.